I found a way to turn everyday instruments into instruments that don't exist, and I'm going to show you how I do it. I've been making sample libraries for a short while now, and the standard process is already pretty magical. You take a bunch of isolated sounds from an instrument, compile them together in software, and now you can play that instrument virtually. But I can also use this process to create something impossible. Welcome to a peek behind the curtain of imaginary instrument number 1, the Vitharhalsi. Before we continue, kind of like a spoiler alert, I don't want these behind the scenes to ruin the fun. The absolute most important takeaway from the imaginary instruments is this: the illusion is the whole point. These instruments are a celebration of imagination. It's a way to explore the way we think about sounds and sampling, and the way that that influences how we use these tools and the inspiration we get from them. I'd recommend watching the actual Vitharhalsi walkthrough first if you resonate with these ideas. So why would I do this video to begin with? I think it's really important to make because, well, I just love sharing the way things tick as a general principle. I also think that it's going to become more and more important to be transparent in the development process with this kind of strange intersection between tech and art that we find ourselves in. I have a lot of opinions about what happens when we are discouraged from understanding the moving parts of the tools we use. And maybe I'll go into greater length on those opinions one day, but not today. If, after all of this, you're still interested in how I made a sample library for an instrument that doesn't exist, then join me as we reveal the magic tricks behind the Vitharhalsi. Let's first get to know the Vitharhalsi as it was meant to be known. Imagine a boxy, kind of borderline rectangular wooden instrument with a wide neck with arched frets. Next to that neck is a kind of parallel chamber that is strung with much smaller sympathetic strings. Sympathetic resonance is something I'll touch on a little later. It's kind of a main feature of the instrument. You play the thing with a bow, and it can lay flat on your lap, kind of like an Appalachian dulcimer. You can tilt it maybe more at an angle. You can think of the kind of music that is often associated with more ancient traditional folk. But this, as you have been made well aware, is not the whole story. The Vitharhalsi is in fact a broch. The broch, which you're supposed to, I think, tap the R like that, doesn't feel genuine to me, so I'm probably going to drop it. The broch is a part of the tamburitsa family, generally associated with Mediterranean Europe. It comprises a lot of the traditional folk music of the area. This particular instrument belonged to my great-grandfather, George Nudovic, who himself was Croatian. He was the only person, at least one of the only people in my family, who ever took music even mildly seriously. And I've been told that he always wished someone else would take up music so that he'd have someone to play with. And I kind of lament the fact that he wasn't around long enough for he and I to play. I have every intention of memorializing this instrument, by casting it in the amber of a sample library, but that is another project for another time. I love the resonance of this instrument. It doesn't have that same kind of even and very tight, sparkling sound that an acoustic guitar has, though obviously they share a lot of DNA. It's got more of a kind of a deep, hollow resonance, kind of like a viola or a cello or something. Long story short, just seems like a good idea to play this with a bow. So here's where sampling becomes really crucial for creating this instrument. Bowing an instrument with a flat bridge is not very practical. There are some clever little inventions like the Picasso, which lets you bow individual strings on a guitar, but string crossing is still pretty tricky, and it doesn't give you a whole lot of bow to work with, which was kind of important to me. Thankfully, when we sample something, we go one note at a time, which means I can take the string I'm interested in and find a way to raise it above the others. I ended up taking a paintbrush with a really thin handle, and I would weave it under one, over top of the rest, and now I could bow very cleanly on a string-by-string basis. This new freedom really let me focus on getting the right tone. I played the instrument flat on my lap, played it completely upright, standard. Each one requires a different bowing angle, which gave a different tone. I also changed the tuning of the instrument, which ended up being a pretty big part of the sound. Standard tuning, I think there are a couple of different tunings that ended up having just way too much tension. It sounded like kind of harsh and squeaky. So I dropped the tuning pretty substantially, and I started noticing the body resonating a lot more. So that was good. I'm starting to get more of that kind of really woody, really throaty tone. But I then started to wonder if I tuned those other strings up to tension, would they resonate with the body? Lo and behold, because I was using that paintbrush handle, every string, including the ones that I had shoved out of the way, had a clean breakpoint, which meant I could tune them to whatever I wanted. Now I can bow only the string I'm interested in still, but the whole thing shimmers with additional overtones in response. And it's moments like this where I feel like I've just lost sight of the brooch, and I'm starting to hear a new instrument emerge. And it's also this moment in the process that's most exciting, because it feels like I'm uncovering a secret, and I'm totally free now to let my imagination run wild and think of how and why an instrument like this could exist on some alternate timeline. Now it's just a matter of deciding what kind of articulations I want to capture. I ended up focusing mostly on droning articulations because it felt like this instrument was more of an accompaniment instrument, felt like it wouldn't have been very nimble to play, very clunky thing to play. So I got some long static sustains, I got some rhythmic tempo synced droning, I got short notes, I got some tremolo, and then I found that I got really lucky with this isolated bowing method, and I was able to eke out little phrases, which is not something I had allotted for. As I had just mentioned, this doesn't feel like a very agile instrument, but every time I sat down with this contraption, they were just falling out of me. So I got a wide array of different kinds of phrases and a bunch of different keys and included them as a big part of the build. So my great-grandfather's brooch had become, with the help of a paintbrush and a cello bow, a ragged, droning instrument from the old world. It's a sound reminiscent of hurdy-gurdies and nickel harpas and taggle harpas, but with the deep-bodied sound of like an oud or a cello. You know, I've always found it kind of incredible that just the way we touch an instrument can change our emotional state, or the mental space that we're inhabiting. And not the notes, just the way we approach the notes. And all I did was just change what one of my hands was doing. And these are techniques that are kind of native to the guitar. You know, I wasn't really breaking any rules either. So needless to say, I'm really excited to continue to open Pandora's box here and share the kind of wild and incredible imaginary instruments that I find along the way. Hey, thanks for sticking around. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time.